Welcome to The Brain Dump, where we study the psychology of success. Join us as we probe the habits, rituals, and routines of top-performing artists, entrepreneurs, authors, athletes, and more to uncover the timeless principles we can all use to take our lives to the next level. Are you ready to plunge the grunge that's been gunking up your mind's eye? Great, then let's get to it.
Guys, welcome back to The Brain Dump. Super excited. Anthony, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I got these little fancy cheese things. They come in like these little wax thingies. And for the people at home that are listening on a podcast, you obviously can't tell what this is, but it's delicious. And it made me feel fancy this morning as I was eating it. So I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. You just found out about 2 seconds ago what we're actually doing on this call because he was being mad at me because I wasn't descriptive enough in my scheduling.
Wait. This is, everybody keeps thinking I'm always mad. I'm not a mad person. I'm never mad.
True.
I think I just have one of those faces.
True that. So we got two of my favorite people here. We've got Jen and Ganga here. And in pure brain dump fashion, we are going to let the guests decide what we're going to talk about. So what are we going to talk about today, ladies?
Everything that we have in common. So our love for making a difference for people through coaching, through personal development, our love for real estate and entrepreneurship. Does that work for you?
Perfect. I love that. What I want to do, because this podcast is unaware with who you are just yet, if you could give us a quick kind of bio and what you are and where you are and kind of update the audience.
Well, I'll start by introducing who Ganga is. So who Ganga is for me. So first of all, we met sitting side by side in a personal development and leadership course. And I didn't think I, had a lot in common with her at the time, but we were there for the same reason, which was that we loved making a difference for people. And we knew that we could be better versions of ourselves. And so that was a really strong way to bond, right off the bat. And as our relationship grew, we were both living in the Bay Area. Now we both don't live in the Bay Area. But I moved to Bulgaria to start a honey company with my newlywed husband, which we can go into later. We had both been working in financial services, she on the debt side and me on the equity side in our careers. And during my first year transitioning from that lifestyle to Bulgarian village beekeeping in a pandemic year where I could not socialize with people and I didn't know anyone in this country, I actually ended up hiring her as my performance coach and helping me with a lot of the transitions. Sorry, we do transactions too, but helping me with the transitions, helping me, really developing the mindset that I would need and the resiliency that I would need to be successful as an entrepreneur, as a wife, as a new Bulgarian resident. And after I got certified as a coach with Ganga, she is a master's trainer. Am I saying that correctly?
Trainer's trainer, yeah. So
okay, sorry.
Same difference.
But can you say what that is?
So a trainer's trainer. So you have a certificate in NLP, then you have a master's certificate, then you have trainer. Trainer's trainer is someone who trains trainers.
So very, very advanced and very, very powerful person. I got just my NLP practitioner's license with her. And then after that, we decided to start doing courses together. So the majority of our network is real estate entrepreneurs, which is what we mostly do performance coaching for. But we also want to help everyone, like we said. So right now we are about to have our last session with a course for parents working from home and children doing school from home during the pandemic and helping them bridge that communication gap and build emotional resiliency when it is really just unusual times. And we also we sponsor syndications together. We have a real estate consulting company that helps real estate entrepreneurs achieve whatever goals that they need, that they set for themselves. And then also we do performance coaching. So in a nutshell, that is me and Ganga. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that, Ganga?
No, I'm just going to jump into introducing you. So Jen is amazing. She, along with her husband, runs Bulgaria Honey Company. She's also an amazing entrepreneurial mindset, young person, I should say. Young at heart, extremely generous, high influencer. And I got to know her through I sat next to her in that personal development course. We've been so committed to our growth and development, and we call each other on our stuff. And we keep ourselves on our toes, and we love each other. I was a bridesmaid at her wedding, and we also recently became partners in multiple businesses. So Jen is someone who constantly blows my mind on what she thinks is possible, what's out there, and how quickly she's willing to be open to something way bigger. And that's what I love about Jen. And she's constantly introducing me to amazing people like yourselves. So if not for Jen, I wouldn't have met you. So thank you, Jen. And I think, Anthony, that cheese says mad cow.
Does it say mad cow?
Mad cow.
Mad cow. Yeah, I love that cheese. And so
It's
so
not
much
mad,
for not
it's
being
laughing.
mad.
It's so good. It's so good. I recommend it to everybody. This podcast is all about the psychology of success, and I don't think you can be successful without cheese in your life. I'm just going to say it.
Well, here's the deal. Moving forward, you see that passion right there, Anthony, of them introducing ourselves. When you and I go on podcasts together, that's what I want from you. I want you to introduce me.
You want me to introduce you?
Yeah, I want to introduce you. So moving forward, I'm going to file that one away.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So guys, when I had Jen and Ganga on my podcast, within about 2.5 seconds, I was like, these are my people. I'm very excited about this. And the conversation went higher and higher. So, as you talk about high performance and as you talk about what we all focus on, where do you want to kick off the conversation, Jen? What direction you want to take it in?
So I guess maybe the first topic we should start with is, who is this for and why is it important? Why high performance in the first place? And I think that's actually a better question for Ganga to start off with.
Yeah. So why high performance is because we all want to have an amazing life. We don't want to have an ordinary life. We don't want life and circumstances to dictate what we're going to do and what we can do. So that's why high performance, whether you're doing dishes or you are an amazing entrepreneur out to big things, are you caring about excellence in that work? Do you want to perform to your fullest? Because I think no matter what you do, when you take the time and effort to do it extremely well and understand your business, understand what you're doing, it just makes your life better. It makes you really happy. It brings out joy in your life. It has you present to the beauty of life. I was reading about your episode 19, where you talk about one of the things that's important in business is forget who gets the credit, but just go for it, right? And that's part of performance, right? We get caught up in who's going to get credit, how are we going to make it work? But it's about are you enjoying your life? Are you enjoying your teammates? Are you enjoying everything you do? And that's quality of life. And for having that, you can't have that without performance, in my view. So yeah, absolutely.
About the giving credit thing, right? If it becomes about all giving credit, then it's about, I don't trust you and we're operating as different teams and, diming and nickeling, and that doesn't really work. But for long-term relationships, it also matters, like abundance mentality, generosity, making sure that everyone is getting their fair worth just as a context, is super important to making a teamwork, just from our own experience. So carry on.
Yeah, absolutely. And then performance mindset, right? Okay, so once I determine, I want to become really good at this, the first thing we can do is to ask people that have what we want, right? So we reach out to people that already have what we want, and then we want to get a coach, right? So that's access to getting trained in that and having someone look over and say, hey, you can do this better. If you have that, I'm telling you that's the best thing that ever happened to me, is have a friend like Jen who is there in the next to me, beside me, watching out for me and telling me, hey, you can do this way better like this. Or just saying, what if you open your mind up to this? So that generous listening and accountability that goes with performance. So that's something we are both very passionate about. Does that vaguely answer? Because it's like an ocean. This conversation can keep going. So,
Anthony, it's super interesting to me as she says those topics, how much I can draw the line directly down the center of the book that you and I, with Adam Carswell, are writing right now, as far as those things, as much as they are performance metrics, it's also how to create a great life for yourself, how to create the best version of yourself, how to be a good human. And I think especially driven people sometimes, I hear my coaching clients say, I don't want to work on myself because my business is going to suffer. Well, no. You're going to work on yourself and your business is going to 10X. And so, what is that line between performance / internal work, kind of that kind of, is it all wrapped into the one?
No, I think, the story that I always tell, and when I'm hearing this about, high performance being important because nobody wants to be ordinary, that really resonates a lot with me and with the teachings of Maslow, which I've shared on this podcast quite frequently. But if this is the first time that you're ever hearing this podcast, I want to tie this framework together for you and then pose a question, because the logical extension, the end point of high performance is fulfillment. Like, we're trying to get to that state. And so the question then becomes, what happens when we achieve without also being fulfilled? And that's a really difficult thing. But the Maslow framework that I want to suggest is, he had a quote that was something to the effect of, that which we can be, we must be. So that recognition that inside of us all, there's greatness, that nobody thinks they're average. Nobody thinks that they're put on this planet to be average. And when you're not living in alignment with your greatness or moving towards your greatness, because it's not even about attainment. There is no static destination. It is always about motion and progress. So you're either moving forward towards your greatness or you're moving away from it at any given moment. And for high achievers, they recognize that and they tie all their self-worth into the act of progressing. But what happens when you're progressing and you're getting these things, but then at the end, you're like, I still feel empty. So what would you guys say to that? How do we bridge the gap between achievement and fulfillment?
That is a great question. Oh, do you want to go for it first? Or okay. So generally people are motivated to do things from one of two places, right? They're trying to get away from something or they're trying to move towards something. So I'll give you an example from my personal life. I was always a high performer, in high school. I started going to college when I was 15 and a half. And so I graduated pretty early and I got, the best grades, and I was tutoring people who were much older than me. And then at my first job, I was hiring and training salespeople who were much more experienced and older than me. And so, my whole life has been about being a high performer. But whenever I reached the next level of accomplishment, if I got the promotion or if I got any achievement, awards, even international awards for different competitions that I participated in, I never felt satisfied. And it was coming from a place of pain called, you're not good enough, which I don't, blame my upbringing for, but it was really a part of the culture that I grew up in, where people would really compare and be competitive because that's the number one thing that mattered, which maybe you can relate to. I know it's very similar in India also, this culture of just competitiveness and parents comparing their kids to each other in front of their own children, So my high performance was driven from a place of pain and getting away from, I need to prove that I am good enough. But it was never given to me. It was never something that I said, I declare that I am good enough now. And I can be satisfied and happy that I accomplished this. And that's for me. I was always doing it to prove something to someone else. And so when I understood that finally, after doing a lot of work, unlearning all of that stuff, and then relearning what is important to me, what do I actually like doing? That was a whole process in itself. Was if I could choose anything to go towards, I don't even know. I had no sense of identity at that point. I've always been doing the things that other people would say, this is good. You're really good at art, Jen. You should go be a professional artist. In my Chinese upbringing, being good at math was a measure of how good you are at school. It doesn't matter how good you are at literature or history or any of the other subjects, right? So I became really good at math. And it was never me saying, this is something I want to pursue. Entrepreneurship, it was not one of those things at the time. Now it's a little more sexy, but so now that I have something that drives me, that moves me towards the thing, which is called making a difference for people, being the smartest, best version of myself, and just making a bigger impact in the world. It's a lot more sustainable. It's very enjoyable. It's very easy to celebrate every step of the way. And it attracts people. You know, it's exhausting doing everything by yourself, honestly. And now there are people who want you to win, who are on your side. There's no competitiveness. So did you have anything to add to that, Ganga? Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to say the same thing in a slightly different way. Great question, by the way. Amazing question, Anthony. So that gap is the difference between being happy and having everything you want, but being miserable. So that emptiness keeps coming, whether that emptiness was there for me when I got 19 3/4 out of 20 and my mom said, where's the quarter? That felt so empty in first grade. I was like, okay, is this what my life is for?
First grade!
First grade. I mean, forget being an entrepreneur, making money, and then feeling miserable later. Like first grade, I was like, that's it? This is all I'm for, is just to keep getting grades and impressing my mom, my teachers, my peers, my family members. Then they'll be proud of me and they ask me to do, okay, better, right? Better, more. But what about me? What do I want, right? And so very early on, I decided that till 12th grade, it didn't matter. So I wasn't going to do well. And then in 12th grade, I started doing extremely well because you couldn't get into college if you couldn't. So just the last test, I did exceedingly well. I was second in my school. I was 0.001% across India. But what I got from that experience is I need compassion for myself. I need to empathize with those that are not like me, help them move with me. That helps with that emptiness, is to make people bigger with me, for all of us to go up. And when we do that, we are supporting each other. There was some quote by some great guy who I can't remember right now, but he was saying that your quality of your life and your happiness and everything grows exponentially when you're focused on helping others get there. And so when I noticed that it felt empty only when I didn't slow down and celebrate, and I let the performance flow exceedingly in one way. So I let it just knock me over, perform and get to that peak, and the rest of me was not caught up. So what I started to do was to get present every step of the way. And then it became delightful. I started enjoying my meals, enjoying my conversations, being passionate and celebrating success. So Jen and I have a rule. We celebrate with champagne. Every single time we did something amazing, we take a sip of champagne, we slow down and we say, this is what we did. Isn't that amazing? We didn't do that last week. We did it this week. So that's what we do to bridge our gap. And life is more a celebration now.
I want to just add to that. It's really important to always acknowledge the little wins, because with every single one, you've grown, right? And if you don't acknowledge them, then you're relating to yourself as an old version of yourself who hasn't had that growth. And then you're going to produce the results consistent with that old version that isn't the new version consistent with
exactly. That old version from last week is not you today.
Or yesterday. Yeah. Or this morning.
Yeah, exactly. You have to keep up with your growth.
And the really great thing is acknowledging the growth in yourself allows you to see that other people are not static too. Like for me, it's very easy to judge, especially the people who are closest to me in my life, my family, my husband, the people I see all the time as the same static way of being, when in fact, maybe they're not. And so acknowledging that I grow by the second allows me to actually reevaluate them for where they're at from moment to moment and relate to them as someone who is capable of growth and may not react the same way that they did yesterday.
Yeah, everyone is growing. Everyone is.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you guys were talking, I want to circle back to that. But as you guys were talking, I started thinking about the the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment, and how there's this dichotomy where achievement really is a science, because it's kind of like, if you go and do this and that and the other thing, you can build a business, you can make money, you can be successful, this is how you win the game. But fulfillment's an art because it's different for everybody, and there's no prescription of, if you do this, then why, right? And so it becomes, you have to kind of figure it out for yourself. And for me, Ganga, when you're talking about your mother when you were little, saying, where's that quarter? That resonates a lot with me as well, and having experiences with my dad of always feeling like, if you're not winning, then you're not doing what you were supposed to do. And for a long time in my life, I looked at fulfillment and achievement, like the idea that by achieving this, I was filling a hole. Like that's, the word fulfillment is like, it's filled. And because I wasn't fulfilled, it meant that there was a hole, and I could fill that with achievement. But if you guys have ever seen those videos of the guy who takes ramen and then fixes up like bowls and boats and things, like these holes, he'll take ramen, he'll create like a paste, and he'll like paste it up, and then it will look like brand new. But you're not fooled that the whole time. You're like, yeah, that's a sink, but he filled that with ramen. It's just ramen. And the analogy that I was thinking of is that fulfillment is really just the road. Like, it's this thing, and maybe it has a hole in it, but you can't fill that with achievement. They're two different mediums. Like, I could put ramen in the hole, but it's not going to fill the hole. It's not going to make it whole, right? And so recognizing that these are two different mediums entirely, that fulfillment and achievement really don't have to be linked in any real way. Like, they're completely separate things, but we try to substitute the one for the other. Austin, what are you thinking about right now as we go through as I start talking about the ramen? You started looking a little hungry.
No. Yes, but that, I digress. But on that, it's this word, and for me, it's always one word. And I move in words, and I can have conversations with somebody in Spain, which I just did, somebody in Philly, and I look at my businesses as I move forward, and it's the word that Jen said, and it's alignment. I feel like I'm becoming this game of all the things that I thought I wanted, which I would add another word to that, which is forced. And then the words with the alignment feels super easy. Mm-hmm. Even though I'm leveled up as a person in my mindset and my abilities, I still don't have the fortitude to get over forcedness, because the world just keeps punching you in the face. But when I'm in alignment with the people I'm in business with, when I'm in alignment with who I am as a person, then everything feels easier. And so I think that is the true for me. That's at least because I can do anything I want. I had this new thing I'm telling my clients all week. This is super important. Is there any part about you that feels if you put 100% of your focus, your attention, and you focus on what you want out of life, that you won't be successful? Well, no, I believe that I can. Well, then what the fuck are we talking about? We're talking about all the things that have to do with you as a person, not your business. Your business can create, you can learn by doing. But are you in alignment with where you're headed? Because I doubt that enough people have taken the time to slow down to see if they are. Are the dreams yours? Are the goals yours? Are they really yours? Or are they your mom's? Or are they society's? And so when we do the inner work, like I have, multiple years, multiple open wounds, multiple blowing up the lives, then I'm in alignment with who I am. So jumping on this podcast, jumping on another one after this, working, all day is great, because I'm doing everything that I want to do. And I think a lot of people are doing things they shouldn't be doing, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Can I add something to that? That alignment, I've noticed that. So the same person, right? Let's say there's this person that everyone says, okay, you know what, that person is difficult, or they have a way, they've labeled this person as whatever, right? That same person, the minute you are aligned, will occur to you differently. They would it's the universe says, well, now you can align with that person on this. You may not align with everything they're doing, but there's a part of them that you align with right away. And that's your internal resistance. When you get rid of that, then the whole world opens up in a different way. Mm-hmm. The people that you had problem with suddenly are working with you. And you're like, it happened to me last week. And I was like, okay, I thought they would be upset that I was telling them this problem needs to be solved a certain way. And instead of that, they were like, oh, I got it. I'll change my process. And I was like blown away, because I was also slightly coming from compassion of, I know they made a mistake. They didn't mean it. But at the same time, here's what I would do differently. I wasn't accusing them. I wanted alignment with what I wanted.
Then at the end of the day, then all the problems, and I know this goes without saying, but all the problems that we seek are truly ours, right? Meaning you're searching for the validation of mom, of dad, of society, of your partner. But when you operate in who you truly are, then your energy that you send out, just like Ganga was saying, is different. So they will either act accordingly or they won't. And a lot of the problems, and I'll revert this back to my own life, when you get sober, a lot of the problems are not your problems anymore. It's that people in your life don't know how to react to the new version of you. Mm-hmm. And so that's the actual issues right there. And it's the same thing when personal growth is the same thing when you make a bunch of money, right? Your friends go, oh, you've changed. Well, no, you haven't really changed. It's they're not comfortable with who they are anymore.
How do you deal with that, Austin? I mean, I know you went through a big change.
I think that Anthony said it perfectly in one of our episodes. I think you can have a goal to get sober, and anybody can eclipse that goal in 30 days. I'm not going to drink for 30 days. But until your identity changes, that I'm not an alcoholic anymore, until your identity changes, you will be swayed by those external forces. But when you truly remove that part of yourself and that identity from you, then you can operate and you're not pushed around by external forces.
So you're saying you get emotionally resilient.
Yes, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah. Because, I was listening to Iron James Cowboy this morning, and Ed Milet, the guy that did the 100 Ironmans in a row. And Ed Milet said something that has really, I've said it like 4 times this morning already. He said that we think as husbands and fathers of kids, we think that our kids model like what we do or who we are or what we do. But what they model is emotions. Mm-hmm. And so if you are emotional or you get upset at every little thing, then watch that manifest in your kid 20 years from now. Mm-hmm. But if you're resolute in who you are and your emotional stability, your kid will carry that with him as well too down the road.
Oh, that is absolutely true.
So I think one of the tactical questions I have is kind of piggybacking on what Jen was just asking there is, how do we develop emotional resilience? Because it's one thing to say, just don't be emotional, right? Like, just be cool, be chill. But then to actually implement it in the moment of frustration or anger or hurt is another thing. And so you have to practice it in the moments of low emotional turmoil to be able to then rely on that later, because it needs to be habitual for it to be something that you can rely on in an emergency situation, which is like, oh no, my dog just got ran over. I need to be emotionally solid now and not fly off the handle because my children are going to be watching how I react to this. So like, what are those tips and tricks and tactics that we can implement on a day-to-day basis to start building that muscle?
I could answer this.
Get in there, girl. You got this.
All right. So this is something I work very, very hard on because, I am extremely passionate. So I have a reaction or an opinion about many things. And I want to, also I used to have impulse control, which meant I had to speak my mind right away before I forgot what it was, which told you if I could forget that, then it was so fleeting, right? So what I learned was just change my breathing. If I could just take a deep breath and go, it's that thing again. Wonderful. What do you have to say this time? Yep. You want to react to this thing that's happening right now. Wonderful. And can we postpone that for like few seconds, few minutes? Just think about something else. Yes. Okay. So what's happening right here? Take feedback on what's going on. How do I want to respond? So actually ask myself, how do I want to respond instead? Oh, I want to be cool, calm, collected, and I want people to see how amazing I am right now. And that helps me position myself and reframe myself differently rather than just jump in and do that thing that I used to do, which creates more problems, doesn't solve the problem, and robs me of the opportunity to build that resiliency. And over time, I grew stronger and stronger and stronger, where I could speak that, hey, right now I am angry. We will discuss that later, but here's what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. So I acknowledge my emotion. That's one of the things I also do is I acknowledge my emotion and I make a request to myself that, yep, you're feeling this way. Acknowledge that. Okay, I'm going to put it aside. And what do I want instead? And that really helps as well. So I have those two tricks right there for me to use. I also put myself quickly in the other person's shoes, which I was never able to do to the extent I do now, which was actually look at the emotion underneath whatever happened. Before I would just look at the event, put myself in their shoes and go, okay, I know why they're doing this, but I would not look at the emotion. And once I started to look at why they're doing it emotionally, I could calm down much faster. I hope that helps.
No, I think it definitely does. What's fascinating is breathing. I think breathing is one of these things that as a culture, we're starting to become a little bit more woke to and starting to understand just the power of it. Because, for many years, we would just hear like, when you're upset, take a deep breath, count to 10, but really understanding the science behind breathing and just what is actually occurring. It's a pretty phenomenal thing. It's the only bodily process that is both automatic and also something you can fully control. You can't control your digestion. You can't control your hearing, your sight, your taste. You can't control anything, but you can control your breathing. And in controlling your breathing, you can control your physiological output and you can change your chemistry in a very real, tangible way. And so I do think that breathing is the core of emotional stability. You have to change your physical state when you're feeling that anger or frustration, because it manifests itself in a very real way. And to combat that, you have to fight it in a very real way. And I think breathing is one of those solutions. What Ganga mentioned also about just being aware of the sensations. When you're afraid, just taking a moment to reflect and look inward at, how is that manifesting in my body? Oh, my shoulders are tight. I feel this pit in my stomach. Just by looking at that discomfort dissolves the discomfort in a very strange, magical, but very tangible way.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. It takes 48 to 72 hours for our molecules, our cells that are agitated by what I call passionate reaction. It could be any reaction. And it takes that much time to get back to normal.
I love it. And, I would be digress if I didn't mention, because we wanted to create something. The four of us got together and we were like, let's do something to impact others on a massive scale. And so we've created this workshop that we're going to host at the end of August, which we're all super happy and super excited to send out there to the community to help as many people as we can on a big scale. And so, I'll let Jen and Ganga kind of start and explain what we've got going on at the end of August.
Jen, can you cut this part out, Austin?
No, we're just going to run live. You're good?
All right. Okay. So go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, so what we wanted to do, you got 4 high-level individuals that really have different areas of expertise, mine being identity. As I worked through my addiction, we had to recreate who I was multiple times. And one of the things I did, and I was going to share earlier, is I created a character that I wanted to step into. And we named that guy Clint Eastwood. And one of the things I did is I created the characters of who he was and what he was supposed to be. And then every time I stepped into a room or environment, I just said to myself, Clint Eastwood. And what it did is I eventually removed myself from that other version of myself and stepped into this new light. And so we're going to be covering that during the talk, the 2-day workshop called Spark Your Greatness. You're going to have all 4 of us on there. And we're really going to dive deep on a bunch of different topics. And Jen, I'll let you and Ganga talk about what y'all are going to talk about. And then we'll get to Anthony.
Great. Yeah. So I paused for a moment because we came up with so many different things that the letters in SPARK stood for. So that's what I was trying to find. So SPARK stands for success, performance, authenticity, resiliency, and knowledge. The tools that you will need to spark your performance and to have an amazing life and be unstoppable and resilient, regardless of how the circumstances or life goes. So that's our main objective to leave you with at the end of this 2-day course. And it's to help you break through to the next level of performance in any area of your life. Most of the time, we talk about entrepreneurship, but this really could be in your personal relationships, in your health, or anything that's important for you. And then also, this is the part that I'll be covering in the course. How do you remove self-sabotage? How do you have a goal, right? And then there's that one thing that you keep doing over and over and over again that keeps you from actually getting there. And so for those who are not aware, how do you become aware of what that is? And then how do you actually remove it out of your way so that you're just unstoppable? There's nothing in your way for you getting to where you want to go. So that's what I'll be talking about. And then Ganga is going to talk about the power of intention. Do you want to say something about that?
Yes. So how do you set that goal? How do you set that intention? What stops us from creating amazing intentions fulfilled? How do you speak so that you get results? Where do you come from? What are your limitations? If they weren't there, how soon will you get there? So that's what I'm going to be talking about. And it's so on point with what we're doing, the podcast we're doing, right? Success, performance, being in the state of flow. Identity, sabotage, limitations. So that's all we're going to talk about. And it's going to lead to fulfillment in personal as well as your professional life.
And then we're also going to be covering getting into peak flow state, which, Ant, do you want to say a few things about that?
Absolutely. So, if you guys have been listening to this podcast for a while, you know my stick, my issues. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And like a big part of my struggle has been, how do I overcome that and turn that weakness into a strength? So how do I overcome distractibility and impulsiveness and, utilize this most important of all assets, which for me is our attention. People will say time is your most valuable resource. And I don't agree with that. I think that your attention is where you put it, in which quantities and what quality, that's going to directly impact the results that you get in life. And for a long time, people have been asking for some more insight into like what I do exactly, like how my system works. And I don't know if it'll work for everybody, but I think that there's commonalities between what I experience in the hyper-focus state and what everybody experiences in the flow state. And flow is a really fascinating subject to me. It's this state of peak performance. If you want to be at your most creative, if you want to be at your most effective, your most efficient, then you need to operate in the flow state. But the problem is that most people don't know how to get into that flow state. For me, it's been around habits and rituals, and like it just happened very naturally. And so over the last couple of months, I've been working to try and systematically figure out what are those triggers that would allow people to activate and go into this state on demand. And so that's what I'm going to be sharing is a breakdown of how to find that flow state. And honestly, regardless of if you want to be a peak performer or not, it's not about the performance, it's not about the creativity, it's not about the output. At the end of the day, your happiest state that you can achieve is when you're in the flow state. When you come out of that Zen-like zone where you're just, time falls away and you're just one with the universe, and you could just stay in that place forever and you just feel so locked in. Like that's the height of human contentment. It's like one of the happiest feelings that you can have. So when we talk about living a life of achievement versus fulfillment, well, the flow state leads to fulfillment. because just by being in it, it feels really good. And so that's something that we're going to try and share is how do we activate this flow state on a day-by-day basis?
No, and it's one of those things where when the idea came up, it's like, look, guys, for all you that attend, I'm just as selfish. I'm going to be learning from them as well, too, to get this many amazing thinkers, amazing speakers together in one room for a 2-day workshop. We're just getting started with this, and it's just something that's super exciting to me. And I'm, humbled and honored to be in this group. And I know that people are going to walk away from this truly changed. And that's, at the end of the day, that's the outcome. That's the transformation that we're looking for. So super excited about this, to do this with you guys. But if people want to find out more about what you have going on, Jen and Ganga, where would they go about doing that?
So for syndication in a box, that's syndication consulting, you could go to syndicationinabox.com. And for focus coaching, it's focuscoachingus.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn and Facebook.
And we'll have a separate sign-up page for the Spark that is coming soon.
Yep.
And the link will be in the description of this podcast.
Yeah, they put all that on me, guys. Don't worry, I'm taking care of it. It's cool. No, we're good. We're good. I'm happy to do it. I told everybody, I don't know if you watch basketball, but I'm a point guard. I just dish out assists all day long. So, guys, every time we get together, so happy to have these conversations. I always leave these conversations smarter, which is really interesting for me, because to put y'all three in a room, sometimes I feel outmatched. So I'm super excited to have y'all in here. And if y'all got some value for this, Anthony, what homework are we sending them home with today?
Your homework is to go to the link in the show notes, find Spark Your Greatness, find the workshop, go and look at it. I'm not saying you sign up for it, but you should sign up for it. Look at what we're going to be covering and ask yourself, which one of those resonates the most with you? Like, which one of those, is it self-sabotage? Is it identity? Is it getting to the focus flow state? Like, what is it that resonates the most with you? And then I want you to reach out to one of us, and say, hey, what you're talking about here really resonates with me, and start a conversation. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Wonderful. Love it. We'll see you next time, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us here at the Brain Dump. Now, before you go, it's important to solidify what you've learned here today by taking action. If all you do is listen, then you're only going to retain a small amount of the information you consumed here today. So take a quick moment to really lock in any key insights, tidbits, or pieces of wisdom that you want to carry with you into the future. You can do this by heading over to iTunes and leaving a review with your top 3 takeaways from this episode. If you've already left a review, first, thank you so much. Second, it's time to start a brain dump journal. It doesn't have to be fancy, just a slip of paper will do, where you can record a couple quick thoughts from each episode. Science shows this is one of the best ways to ensure long-term retention of new information. And finally, if you've got a brother, a sister, a coworker, or a best friend that you think would benefit from this episode, do them and us a favor and share with them this episode. Your support, as always, means the world to us.